Hearing, I'll come to order. I'm glad everyone could find the room here. It's a little bit different being in this committee room rather than the other one, so a few things I'm just getting used to here. And this microphone sounds very loud to me. Good morning and welcome to the Research and Science Education Subcommittee hearing on engineering in K-12 education. Today we will explore the concept of pre-college engineering education. Even though I was trained as an engineer, this is something that's fairly new to me, simply because it was not formally around when I was in school. We on the committee are dedicated to improving STEM education in this country and are always exploring new ideas that have the potential to have a positive impact on student learning and achievement in STEM fields. This year alone, we have held 3 hearings on K-12 STEM education, but those have focused primarily on science and math. And we have yet to examine the small but growing movement in K-12 engineering education. Today, we will hear from witnesses who are involved in engineering education in a variety of capacities. I look forward to hearing the witnesses explain the current models and initiatives for teaching engineering in the K-12 setting, to what extent these efforts have been successful in teaching engineering concepts, and perhaps most importantly, how they might be used to improve student learning in all STEM fields. We are fortunate to have a new report on the subject from the National Academy of Engineering and the National Research Council. I hope discussing this report will help us understand what questions remain unanswered and what research might need to be conducted. Finally, I'm interested in learning more today about how pre-college engineering education might broaden the STEM pipeline by helping to make STEM learning tangible and exciting to students from all backgrounds. I want to thank all the witnesses for taking the time to appear before the subcommittee this morning, and I look forward to your testimony. The chair now recognizes Dr. Ehlers for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and actually I like this cozy room. We may have to pull in a few extra chairs, or you'll have to take people on your lap or something like that, but at any rate it'll be a fun session here. Today's hearing will look at what we know and what we need to know about bolstering K-12 engineering education. And I've become known as the great pusher of STEM education here. Engineering is definitely a part of STEM education. It's, in fact, if you count the letters, it's 1/4 of the package. But it faces unique challenges in the classroom. And I'm very pleased that the witnesses are here today that are going to help us understand what that unique place is, what the unique challenges are that are faced. I happen to be a great believer in using engineering in the elementary schools. And if I had my druthers, the federal government would give a free set of Tinker toys and Lincoln Logs to every child born in this country, male or female, and get them started off right from the start. Engineering is nothing but making things that work. Making things out of materials that are at hand and that you can make into useful devices that work. And I can't think of a more valuable skill for students to learn in school, regardless of whether or not they go into engineering. But if they don't explore math, science, engineering in elementary school, they almost certainly are not going to take the advanced placement courses in high school. If they don't take the advanced placement courses in high school, when they get to the university, they find, well, if they want to become an engineer, they're going to have to spend at least 1 extra year there to make up time. And so what student wants to do that, especially when they're faced in their freshman year? And so suddenly we've lost an engineer just because the elementary schools have not instilled that excitement of discovery, the excitement of putting things together and making them work when the students were younger. I suspect that many innovative teachers have been including engineering in their classrooms for many years, and it's our job collectively in this committee to tap that knowledge that's out there, and you're going to be important channels today in helping us begin that education. It's pretty rare you have the opportunity to educate members of Congress. Usually most members by nature assume they know everything already. And so here's a golden opportunity for you to educate us. I hope that we can really get something started here. We have so many forward-thinking ideas on this committee, but if you don't start with a good idea and you don't push it, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's our effort here today. Thank you for participating, and thank you for your interest. And I yield back.
Thank you, Dr. Ehlers. If there are members who wish to submit additional opening statements, your statements will be added to the record at this point. At this time, I'd like to introduce our witnesses. First, we have Dr. Linda Katehi, who is chair of the National Academy of Engineering Committee on the K-12 engineering education, and the chancellor of the University of California, Davis. Dr. Thomas Peterson is the assistant director for engineering at the National Science Foundation. Dr. Ioannis Miaoulis is the president and director of the Museum of Science, Boston, and the founding director of the National Center for Technological Literacy. Dr. Darryll Pines is dean and professor of engineering at the A. James Clark School of Engineering at the University of Maryland, College Park. I'll now yield to Ranking Member Hall to introduce our fifth and final witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for calling this meeting here today. And Professor Ehlers, thank you for your good advice. I've always admired the chairman, his history of success and leadership that he gives to this committee. And I always admired Professor Ehlers, but I never really liked him. He's a very kind of guy that ruined the curve for ordinary students like me, and a lot of you. But I'd like to thank all the witnesses here today, and my basic job is to introduce my favorite witness and some of my folks, Mr. Chairman, if I might, that are in the audience. But I respect all of you for the dedication to strengthening K-12 STEM education and specifically K-12 engineering education. Our nation's always, as you know, been the leader in cutting-edge innovation, and our young children and grandchildren are the key to our success. How we inspire them and how we keep them inspired as they continue their education are very critical questions. And I might say on behalf of the chairman here that don't have dismay at the lack of members that are here, because we all have about several committees and there are committee meetings everywhere, and we're trying to wind up and get away from here maybe tonight or first thing in the morning. So, but everything you testify to will be put into writing by our court reporter there and goes into the books, and every member of the Congress will read it. And so you're not just testifying to a good chairman and a couple of members and their groups. Sometimes it's hard to grasp how a 7 or 8 year old can understand engineering, but when you put it in terms of toys with which they play and see them light up with excitement, and even as I was excited to learn that silly putty was invented by a chemical engineer trying to find a rubber substitute. Mechanical engineer invented the slinky when he saw a spring fall off of a table, and a basic water gun was transformed into a very popular super soaker, Max D 6000 giant water blaster, they say, by a NASA mechanical engineer. You know, during World War II, I flew for the Navy, and I landed probably 50 times right there in Pearl Harbor by the Arizona. Never really realized anything historical had taken there. Didn't even get a picture of the Arizona. It was still afloat then, partially, and it's down into the mud now. And Mr. Chairman, to bring it more home, my son, one of my sons, cut my garden hose in two and had it wrapped around his arm and was wringing it around like that, and I whipped him with the rest of the garden hose. 3 years later, they came out with the hula hoop. I just don't ever see anything that's successful, but I see successful people here that are testifying for us today, and we're very grateful to. I applaud the subcommittee for taking up this issue, and my job is to introduce him. He's influenced the lives of Texarkana children since 1974, first as a teacher, then as an assistant principal, now as a principal of the Martha and Josh Morris Mathematics and Engineering Elementary School. And what great and giving people are the Morrises. And he's a senior administrator for the Texarkana Independent School District. He, along with a lot of others, including Texas Independent School District Superintendent James Henry Russell, are here, City Manager Larry Sullivan, former superintendent, and his wife Roseanne Stripling, Provost of Texas A&M Texarkana, and the Morris family, were instrumental in the construction and development of the state-of-the-art Morris Elementary in 2006. Now, Bart Garden was with me there when we honored them and recognized that some time ago, and it's good to see my friend James Henry in the audience, as well as other members of the Texas Independent School District staff. Autumn Thomas, Deputy Superintendent, and Ronnie Thompson, Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Services. As I say, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Gordon and I were privileged to visit this very phenomenal campus last year and see firsthand one of only a very few public model schools currently in the nation focused specifically on elementary engineering and mathematics. And I was pleased to see that the National Academy study, quote, engineering and K-12 education, unquote, also recognizes the Morris School as a model. Hopefully it can be replicated in other towns suitable for a similar experience. Mr. Sandlin, welcome to Washington, and thank you for being here and for your willingness to share your Morris Elementary experiences with us. I look forward to learning more about it and believe that my colleagues will also find your testimony, along with the testimony of those other very knowledgeable and respected witnesses, to be very beneficial. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for allowing me to recognize my favorite group of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. And
I yield back my time if I've got any here left.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hall, you don't have to worry about me destroying the curve. I did get a B once in advanced electrodynamics.
I never did get a B.
So
one time my dad whipped me. They said that I made 4 F's and a D, and he whipped me for spending too much time on one subject.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
I guess we better get away along, hadn't we?
I just, at the beginning, you were talking about, you say those nice things about me, and then you're criticizing Dr. Ioannis here, but it was, I noted that you didn't use the slur professor with me as you did with Dr. Ioannis, so I thank you for that. Always good to have you, and always get a few good stories, so thank you always for your contributions. As our witnesses should know, you each will have 5 minutes for your spoken testimony. Your written testimony will be included in the record for the hearing. When you all have completed your spoken testimony, we'll begin with questions. Each member will have 5 minutes to question the panel. So we will start the testimony here with Dr. Katehi.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. My name is Linda Katehi. I'm the Chancellor at the University of California, Davis, and I served as the chair of the Committee on K-12 Engineering Education of the National Academy of Engineering and the National Research Council Center for Education. I'm sure you are familiar with the history and role of the National Academy, so I will not say anything more on that front. My written testimony goes into some detail about the committee's recently released report, which is titled Engineering in K-12 Education, Understanding the Status and Improving the Prospects. In my brief remarks today, I'm going to focus on our key findings and recommendations. I would like to start by noting that our study was motivated by several factors. One was a desire to get a handle on what is happening nationally regarding efforts to introduce engineering into K-12 classrooms. For example, how many kids and teachers have taken part in these initiatives? What impact have various programs had on student learning? What is the relationship between engineering and the other STEM subjects? Another motivator was the concern about the uneven quality of our K-12 STEM education system. This system provides the feedstock for the country's STEM workforce, which in turn fuels the U.S. innovation engine and U.S. economy. We wanted to better understand the potential of K-12 engineering education to support our broader national interests. At this point, I want to very briefly define engineering so that the subcommittee has some sense of what I mean when I use the term. Whereas science can be thought of as a process of discovering what is, engineering is a process used to create something new, something useful, typically a technological product, a process, or a service. In our report, we call engineering design under constraint. These constraints include the laws of nature. Engineers cannot design anything that violates those laws. But they also include other things such as resource availability, environmental impact, manufacturability, time deadlines, government regulations, political realities, and ethical considerations. The engineering design process relies heavily on science and mathematics, and engineers work collaboratively with scientists, technicians, and many others, often in dispersed and global teams. The most intriguing finding from our study, in my view, is the idea that K-12 engineering education might become a catalyst for more integrated and effective STEM education in the U.S. In the real world of research and technology development, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are not isolated from one another. Our committee wondered then why these subjects should continue to be isolated or siloed when taught at schools. To begin moving down the path toward integration, the committee recommends that the National Science Foundation support research to characterize or define STEM literacy, including how much literacy might develop over the course of a student's K-12 school experience. A major element of our study involved reviewing a representative sample of K-12 engineering education curricula. Most of these curricula recognize that scientific inquiry and engineering design are closely related activities that can be mutually reinforcing, but we found that the connection is not systematically emphasized to improve learning in both domains. Similarly, mathematical analysis and modeling are essential to engineering design, but very few curricula or professional development initiatives we reviewed used mathematics in ways that support modeling and analysis. To address these shortcomings, the committee recommends that the National Science Foundation or the U.S. Department of Education fund research to determine how science inquiry and mathematical reasoning can be better connected to engineering design in K-12 curricula and teacher professional development. Our study also evaluated a variety of claims that have been made for the benefits of teaching engineering to K-12 students. Although only limited reliable data are available to support these claims, we found that most evidence for benefit relates to improved student learning and achievement in mathematics and science. For engineering education to become a more mainstream component of K-12 education, the committee believes there will have to be much more and much higher quality outcomes-based data. To this end, we recommend that foundations and federal agencies with an interest in K-12 engineering education support long-term research to confirm and refine the findings of earlier studies of the impacts of engineering education. At this point, I would like to note that the committee was unanimous that whatever benefits K-12 engineering education provides, they should be made available to all students, what we term the mainline, not just to those relatively few students who wish to pursue a career in engineering or another technical field, what we normally call the pipeline. Our study determined that teacher professional development opportunities for K-12 engineering are seriously lacking. The roughly 18,000 teachers, we estimate, who have received some training to teach engineering have almost all participated in in-service initiatives associated with existing curricula. We have uncovered no pre-service initiatives that are likely to contribute significantly to the supply of qualified engineering teachers in the near future. Given this situation, the committee recommends that the American Society of Engineering Education begin a national dialogue on preparing K-12 engineering teachers to address the very different needs and circumstances facing elementary and secondary teachers and the pros and cons of establishing a formal credentialing process. The committee concluded that lack of gender and ethnic diversity is an issue for K-12 engineering education, just as it is an issue for the engineering workforce. To expand access and participation, the committee recommends that K-12 engineering curricula should be developed with special attention to features that appeal to girls and students from underrepresented groups, and programs that promote K-12 engineering education should be strategic in their outreach to these populations. Many questions remain about the best way to deliver engineering education in the K-12 classroom. In the committee's view, there are at least three options: ad hoc infusion, STEM-alone courses, and interconnected STEM education. These approaches, which fall along a continuum in terms of ease of implementation, are described in greater detail in our report. We believe that implementation of K-12 engineering education must be flexible because no single approach is likely to be acceptable or feasible in every district or school. Ideally, we believe that all K-12 students in the U.S. should have the option of experiencing some form of formal engineering design. To help reach that goal, the committee recommends that philanthropic foundations or federal agencies with an interest in STEM education and school reform fund research to identify models of implementation for K-12 engineering education. Our project did not attempt to calculate the nation's investment in K-12 engineering education. It is clear, however, that the greater spending over time has been on curriculum development. A much smaller amount has been devoted to research on cognition and learning, on assessment and evaluation, and on professional development. K-12 engineering education could benefit from addressing the research questions suggested by many of our recommendations. I want to return briefly to the ideas of integrated STEM education and STEM literacy. The committee believes that STEM literate students will be better prepared for life in the 21st century and better able to make career decisions or pursue post-secondary education. They will also become better citizens, and our country will greatly benefit from them. Integrated STEM education could improve teaching and learning in all 4 subjects by reducing excessive expectations for K-12 STEM teaching and learning. This does not mean that teaching should be dumbed down, but rather that teaching and learning in fewer key STEM areas could be deepened, and then more time should be spent on the development of a set of STEM skills that includes engineering design and scientific inquiry. I would like to thank the subcommittee for the invitation to speak here today and welcome your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Katehi. Dr. Peterson.
Chairman Lipinski, Ranking Member Ehlers, and distinguished members of the subcommittee.
Is the microphone on?
Are we on now? Okay.
There we go.
I apologize. Chairman Lipinski, Ranking Member Ehlers, and distinguished members of the Subcommittee on Research and Science Education, I want to thank you for inviting me to participate in this hearing on engineering and K-12 education. I'm Thomas Peterson, the Assistant Director for Engineering at the National Science Foundation. Every student who takes either the SAT or the ACT college entrance exam is asked to indicate the discipline of study that they intend to pursue after graduation from high school. The fraction of total test takers who intend to pursue engineering declined from 7.7% in 1994 to 4.6% in 2006. As a former engineering dean, I, along with my colleagues, Dr. Katehi, Dr. Miaoulis, and Dr. Pines, all either current or former engineering deans themselves, have firsthand experience with the challenges of finding a diverse and qualified pipeline of domestic students interested in pursuing the study of engineering. The introduction of basic engineering concepts in pre-college curricula, even in the elementary and middle schools, can be an important factor in addressing these challenges. Engineering education in the K-12 curriculum holds promise to encourage student learning in fundamental science and mathematics, to raise the level of understanding and awareness of engineering and what engineers do, to stimulate interest in a rapidly changing demographic population to pursue careers in engineering, and to increase the basic technological literacy for all of our citizens. In other words, far from being an additional burden for schools, engineering education in the K-12 environment is an enabler for motivating students to learn other aspects of the curriculum as well. The key to inclusion of engineering in the K-12 curriculum is the emphasis on the elementary principles of engineering design. It illustrates the importance and application of basic science and mathematics principles. It stimulates creativity within students. It encourages them to work in partnership with other students because design is fundamentally a team-based activity. It helps to develop communication skills as students work together and describe their work to each other. And it even promotes a platform for the consideration of important social, environmental, and ethical issues. At the National Science Foundation, the Engineering and the Education and Human Resources Directorates have partnered on numerous K-12 activities. For example, we've teamed to support a GK-12 fellowship program at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and these fellows work with Skyline High School in Longmont to bring highly interactive, hands-on engineering projects into the classroom. Another partnership supports Design Squad, a PBS reality competition series with an accompanying outreach campaign and website designed to inspire a new generation of engineers. The series is making a special effort to reach out to girls and minorities, groups that are critically underrepresented in engineering, as we all know. The Engineering is Elementary project, developed by the National Center for Technological Literacy with NSF support, holds promise to reach very deeply into elementary schools throughout the nation. And it's also noteworthy and reassuring that support for engineering in K-12 education extends beyond government agencies like the NSF. In 1992, FIRST Robotics, an extracurricular program, was launched in New Hampshire under the visionary leadership of Dean Kamen. While he received support from NSF in the early stages of that competition, FIRST Robotics is now supported by industry partners in over 2,000 high schools in the U.S., and a significant number of FIRST alumni are now studying in engineering colleges. In summary, the NSF is not about providing long-term and sustained funding for programs. We provide the support for new ideas, new curricula, new approaches to engineering education, and educational pedagogy. We provide the support for targeted programs in schools and institutions with new and creative ideas. The challenge is twofold. First, we must find the support to continue programs developed under NSF sponsorship once NSF support is no longer provided. And second, we must find the means to financially support the dissemination of these best ideas developed through NSF support to a much broader range of institutions and schools. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions following the testimony.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Dr. Miaoulis.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Ehlers, and members of the committee, I would also like to thank you for calling this hearing and inviting me to share my experiences. K-12 engineering has been my passion since 1993. I was then Dean of the School of Engineering at Tufts University, and now my passion continues as President and Director of the Museum of Science in Boston. We claim that science is the discipline that teaches children about the world around them. But I would like you to take a look at this room and tell me how many of the things you see around you are natural things and how many are human-made. And I would argue that about 98% of the world around us is human-made. If you look at the science curriculum in schools, it's primarily focused on the natural world. So it captures pretty much 2% of the world of the children. And we leave out 98%. So understanding 98% of the world around us, I would argue, is basic literacy, is not an extra. So technological literacy is basic literacy. But there are a few other more reasons why engineering should be part of the formal curriculum. Engineering offers a wonderful vehicle for problem solving and project-based learning, pulling all the other disciplines together, bringing them to life. It brings, in particular, math and science to life and makes them relevant. And we all know that relevance in science is what attracts and retains girls in science. If you look at the science fields that women gravitate are the ones that truly benefit the world, like medicine, veterinary medicine, life sciences, and environmental engineering. Also, by introducing engineering into schools, we'll ensure that we have a technologically literate and diverse workforce. 7 out of 10 U.S. engineers have had a relative that's an engineer. So it's the parents that mentor the kids or the relatives to become engineers. Popular television does not help either, because although there are wonderful popular shows that glorify wonderful professions such as law and medicine, there are no real engineers in popular TV to encourage kids to go into engineering. Actually, the only engineer these days in prime TV is Homer Simpson from The Simpsons, the cartoon, which is unfortunate. By introducing engineering as a main discipline, kids of all ethnic groups would know what it is and they can choose or not to pursue it. At the National Center for Technological Literacy, which is housed within the Museum of Science, we do 3 things to promote engineering literacy nationwide. And please, if I could have the slides sort of roll as I'm speaking, I would appreciate it. So we do 3 things. First, we create curriculum. We have, I would argue, probably the broadest and most diverse curriculum development effort for children engineering in the world. We have an elementary curriculum that is being used by over 1 million children, including the children at Mr. Sandlin School, actually in Texas. They're using our curriculum. And we have also middle school and high school engineering curricula. This is all standards-based, research-based engineering curriculum that integrates mathematics and science. We also have an extensive number of pre-service and in-service workshops for teachers. Our model is to develop partnerships nationwide. We have dozens of partners, universities, science centers, corporations that do professional development of teachers in the region. We also work with universities to assist them to develop curriculum, engineering curriculum for future teachers. And also we have an extensive advocacy effort, both at the state level. We work with many state legislative bodies and departments of education, as well as the federal entities such as the National Government Association, to introduce engineering standards, assessments, and programs. There are a few challenges, of course, with this initiative. There is apprehension and fear. Engineering, for many people, is a scary word. Some believe that it's not for young children. Somebody should have calculus to do engineering. I don't agree with that. You can do engineering at different levels, like you can do physics at different levels. There is a lack of resources. Although there's a lot of talk and enthusiasm about STEM, all the money goes to the SMU of STEM, the science and the math, and the T and D are left out. So there's still lack of resources. There is concern over lack of time to teach engineering. Well, our children spend about a month during middle school learning how a volcano works, and they spend no time learning how a car works. How much time do you spend in a volcano compared to a car in your life? And why should we spend a month learning about volcanoes and no time learning about cars? And don't take me wrong, I think volcanoes are a wonderful way to teach plate tectonics, which is very important for children to learn, but I would argue that we could make some space to teach engineering as well. Here are 3 recommendations. First, that we increase funding on professional development of teachers to enable them to include engineering in their teaching, and to enable informal science organizations such as science museums and science centers to provide such support. Second recommendation is to provide resources for development of more curriculum and materials. And third, to support legislation that would provide states planning grants to figure out how they would introduce engineering in their formal standards and assessments, implementation grants after they have the plan down of how they're going to do it, to actually support funding teacher professional development and curriculum materials, and also support evaluation studies so that we can build research that will help us understand how we should introduce engineering better for children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Dr. Pines.
Good morning, Chairman Lipinski and Ranking Member Ehlers and other distinguished members of the subcommittee, and all who are concerned about STEM education, and especially in the K-12 area. My name is Darryll Pines, and I'm the Nariman Farvardin Professor and Dean of the A. James Clark School of Engineering. I'm going to thank you for inviting me. The Clark School attracts a large number of outstanding young people from the highly regarded Maryland school system and also the Maryland private school system, as well as from the excellent schools across the country and around the world, in fact. We have created an array of programs to interest these younger students in engineering and develop insights concerning the inclusion of engineering concepts and approaches in their pre-college education. One simple but important insight is the following fact. In K-12 engineering education, proper pacing and mentorship are crucial. By engaging students at the proper level, at the proper time, with the proper mentors, schools can ensure that students are neither intimidated by the difficulties of engineering nor deluded that engineering means dreaming up ideas without creating, analyzing, testing, and refining a solution using math and science. With proper pacing and mentors, we can inspire students with engineering's potential for a positive impact in the world, while beginning to train them in the skills they will need to make that impact. To achieve these goals, the Clark School and other university programs must do a better job of educating high school and middle school teachers about the field of engineering, academic requirements for engineering students as well, and the proper level of engineering concepts to include in their lesson plans. To answer the first question that posed by the committee, a successful undergraduate engineering student should graduate with the following attributes. Number one, high awareness of the areas in which engineering can impact our quality of life. Number two, time spent in direct work in one or more of the areas through related research, internships, or volunteer service programs. Number three, the entrepreneurial skills and confidence to organize and launch an initiative, even a company, in one of those areas. Number four, the ability to solve open-ended problems by applying engineering methods, mathematics, and the sciences. Number five, the ability to focus on a problem and imagine one or more ways to solve it. Number six, a strong work ethic and the ability to learn autonomously. Number seven, skills in communicating with professionals and lay people. And number eight, the ability to work alone or in teams or to lead when necessary. To ensure that undergraduates possess these skills and attributes on graduating from college and to increase the number who do graduate, we must first ensure that high school students come to us possessing all of these skills in some part and to some degree, and the last five to a high degree. A useful example of the boundary between high school and college is a project that is commonly implemented in high school science or engineering courses. That is, the making of a truss bridge. In high school, students will build a truss bridge based on how they think it should look, how they think they can make it stronger, relying really on their experience and their intuition. This is appropriate for high school or middle school. However, in a mechanics class in college, students will learn the concepts of stress and strain, axial loading, material properties, and other concepts that allow them to design the truss, then build it, rather than simply putting something together to see how it stands up to a load. This is expected and appropriate for students that are in college. In response to question 2, pre-college engineering education can inspire students with the potential of engineering to improve our world and prepare them for the challenges of the university engineering program. First, schools must identify students who are proficient in mathematics and science. Without proficiency, students cannot succeed in the field of engineering. Next, schools must show students how they may apply that proficiency through engineering in fields such as energy, cybersecurity, healthcare, transportation, homeland security, space flight, communications, and so on. This provides the spark of excitement so that students begin to know what engineering really matters and what matters in engineering. It also allows them to be creative, an important and highly satisfying aspect of engineering. Middle school is indeed the right time to weave in some of these very basic applications of engineering, but too early to do more rigorous engineering type classes. The 4 years of high school are the right time for this type of training. Making engineering electives available in each of the 4 years would be appropriate for high school. In response to question 3, the Clark School delivers K-12 programs during the academic year and the summer. Our Center for Minorities in Science and Engineering offers 2 academic year programs, and I'll just highlight them right now. The STEAM program brings the students together with a faculty mentor in a year-long research project through a research practicum for high school students. Our Maryland Mathematics, Engineering, and Science Achievement program, also referred to as MESA, engages students in Saturday academies, summer programs, and in-service and after-school enrichment programs. Our additional LEAD academies are offered through our Women in Engineering program. They introduce female students to one of our academic programs such as aerospace engineering or bioengineering or electrical and computer engineering using demonstrations and hands-on projects. Evaluating the program effectiveness is very challenging for all of our K-12 STEM programs. We do have, in fact, case-by-case evidence that students who participate in these particular programs become more positive about engineering and actually enroll in our school. Regarding partnerships, we have identified the top 25 Maryland high schools that send us the greatest number of engineering students and propose a stronger partnership with those schools and opportunities for students to engage in engineering activities, training for teachers, and the availability of merit scholarships. We have also produced summer programs for high school STEM teachers. They witness presentations, they do hands-on projects, tour our facilities, and speak with our faculty, all to enhance their understanding of engineering and encourage them to take their new knowledge back to their students. Our next step is to partner with our College of Education to ensure that teachers can be certified in engineering education. In parallel, we are meeting with the Maryland State Department of Education STEM coordinator to explore ways to establish closer cooperation between our two organizations. So, in concluding, I would like to thank the committee for the opportunity to report on Clark School's programs in support of K-12 education, and I will be happy to answer any additional questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pines. Mr. Sandlin.
It's on. There we go. I'm sorry. Chairman Lipinski, Ranking Member Elders, and Congressman Hall, and other members of the Research and Science Subcommittee. Certainly an honor today and privileged to be here today to share with you about what's taking place at Martha and Josh Morris Mathematics and Engineering Elementary School as we attempt to implement an integrated engineering curriculum. Morris Elementary is part of the Texarkana Independent School District located in Texarkana, Texas. During this oral report, there will be some slides playing to show you what our campus looks like and the activities taking place. The idea for the school began when a group of citizens, educators, engineers, and business leaders, under the leadership of then Superintendent Dr. Larry Sullivan and the President Texas A&M University of Texarkana, Dr. Stephen Hensley, determined that a high priority for the Texarkana area was to somehow close the gap between supply and demand for professionals in engineering and mathematics careers. So was born the collaborative between Texas A&M University Texarkana and Texarkana ISD to develop a K-16 pipeline which would expose children to engineering concepts and careers at an early age. We attempt to raise the bar of excellence by requiring higher standards for our students and our teachers. Students attend Morris on a first-come, first-served open enrollment basis, but once enrolled, the students must meet certain academic, behavior, and attendance standards to remain enrolled. All teachers at Morris must either have a master's degree or be willing to complete a master's degree. Our district provides the funds for the coursework, and there's no cost to the teacher as long as the teacher remains with the district for 4 years after completing the coursework. Teachers who already have a master's degree must also complete 4 additional courses of math, along with 2 curriculum design and delivery courses. Teachers are then qualified to take the Master of Mathematics Teacher Certification examination. TISD provides continuous professional development in STEM education through workshops offered through its Instructional Services Department, plus the American Society for Engineering Education offers a free workshop to STEM educators each year. Some of our teachers attended in Austin in 2009 and plan on returning in the summer of 2010 in Louisville, Kentucky. Our curriculum coach meets on a regular basis in planning sessions with our teachers. With much input from the educators and engineers, along with the donation of 10.6 acres of land by the Morris family, the construction of a new elementary school became a reality. We have been very fortunate that we've been able to design a physical plant which enhances the delivery of our engineering curriculum by offering some unique features not normally found in elementary schools. Some of these unique features include exposed color-coded pipes, clear wall panels, and clear ceiling tiles, which allow students to view ductwork, wiring, and other pipes to show them that there's a path for everything that comes to them. Somebody had to design it, put it in place, and maintain it. Also, we use irregular-shaped classrooms located in pod setting that also has a common area. The data cabinets also wiring is exposed. In each classroom, we have a clear case computer. There's also a clear tile area in the entrance to each pod that shows pipes and rebar that's located in the foundation. And we design each class like a lab instead of just having one lab per pod. We use tables instead of desks in order to provide hands-on activity space for teachers to use. We also have students work in groups, cooperative groups, to work together. A research and design center is used to promote research in robotics. The school's file server also has an open design. But although we're very proud of our physical plant, it's our curriculum that what sets us apart from the other elementary schools. Instruction at Morris Elementary is a student-centered, hands-on, and concept-based instruction. Teachers facilitate inquiry-based learning, which they tap into the students' natural interest in problem-solving. Classrooms are equipped with state-of-the-art technology and equipment, and the teachers create a learning environment where learners assume the responsibility of their own learning, where student autonomy and initiative are encouraged. We are trying to raise the bar through the thrill of discovery. Our curriculum coach plays a vital role in making sure we're implementing the engineering curriculum in the classroom daily. Each morning, all grades have an engineering period, first period, and then we integrate the engineering concepts of that period into the other subjects whenever possible. In an attempt to avoid the science fair mentality where the parents do the projects at home and then send them to school for everyone to admire, we hold at least 3 engineering encounters per year. These engineering encounters give parents the opportunity to view and participate in the engineering activities with the students. Our students love robotics. In addition to daily robotics activities, our students like to compete in robotic competitions. So far, we've competed at the University of Texas at Dallas and also the University of Texas at Tyler. We strive to share the arena with our other schools and school districts by giving them tours of facilities and by inviting educators to visit our classrooms. We also believe in the ripple or the spillover effect, which means that we are willing to share strategies that work at Morris with teachers at our other campuses in our district. In reality, we realize that not all 400 students at Morris will choose careers in engineering. However, we feel that if they can learn the process of learning like an engineer, then they can use this process of learning regardless of which field they go into. This process includes the steps of imagine, plan, design, improve, and share, which we adapted from engineering as elementary. Our students are encouraged to continue their study of engineering and mathematics after they leave Morris by enrolling in Engineering and Mathematics Academy at our Texas Middle School. And then they take engineering courses at our high school at Texas High. And then to go on to Texas A&M University, Texarkana, to major in engineering, completing the K-16 journey. Martha and Josh Morris Mathematics and Engineering Elementary School is a great place for kids to explore and learn. We don't have all the answers, but we do feel like the bicycle has begun to move. We certainly would extend an open invitation to anyone to visit our campus at any time. We certainly want to thank Congressman Hall for an opportunity to come today and his strong support of STEM education and also his support of Morris Elementary. I'd like to conclude our testimony with a short video that shows the activities at Morris and the learning process. Once again, I want to thank the committee for the opportunity. Be glad to answer any questions.
When you imagine, you think of what you're going to say and do or brainstorm. You plan, you draw out what you are going to do and list the materials.
You design by following your plan and testing to see if it actually works.
Teaching engineering has been one of my favorite subjects to teach at Morris. TISD did an excellent job preparing me to teach engineering. The summer before we opened the doors, we took a graduate class in curriculum, design, and delivery. During this class, we learned all about the engineering design model and how to implement.
The engineering design process and learning appropriate vocabulary helped me to better understand how to teach engineering. It allowed me to see all that is done must be conducted within the engineering design process.
To improve, you see if it actually works and make a few changes to make it stronger. After you finish everything, you share it by telling everyone how you did it and what made you think about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandlin. At this point, we'll begin our first round of questions, and the chair recognizes himself for 5 minutes. Right now, we are beginning to work on the NSF reauthorization and determine what's working, what could work better. So, really focusing on NSF funding. So, I wanted to start out by asking Dr. Peterson in this hearing here, what's the current level of support of NSF funded research and other activities on K through 12 engineering education, and how much of NSF's research support in this area is funded out of the Engineering Directorate, and how much is funded through the Education and Human Resources Directorate.
Chairman Lipinski, let me answer that question in
Microphone?
steps. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me first of all begin, Chairman Lipinski, by talking about the investment that the Directorate for Education and Human Resources has made. In 2008, about $9 million, and in 2009, about $23 million in K-12 engineering projects were supported by EHR. These came in a variety of programs, and I can provide you those specific details with exact dollar amounts, but just generally speaking, they were the GK-12 program, the NOIS program, the Math Science Partnership program, the Discovery for Research in K-12, and small amounts in other programs. In the Engineering Directorate, in 2008, we invested approximately $13 million, and in 2009, about $15 million in K-12 engineering education projects. And some of these were in partnership with EHR. Primarily three areas of support provided this level of support for engineering education. The RET, or Research Experience for Teachers program, the GK-12 program, which provides opportunities for engineering graduate students to interact with local schools, and the educational component for our engineering research program. I think sometimes people who are very familiar, who are only superficially familiar with our engineering research centers, think that their primary focus and sole focus is on engineering research. But an important component of all of these centers is an outreach and education element, and they often involve interactions with teachers and local school districts and provide them mechanisms to bring engineering concepts into their classroom. So approximately $8 or $9 million over those 2 years was supported through the RET program, about $7.5 million from the GK-12 program, and about $7 million from the engineering research centers. And again, I can provide you the other details in the smaller programs for the record.
Thank you. And it is, a follow-up, is there a comprehensive approach to the funding in these different programs?
We obviously try to coordinate the support that is provided, and as I said, we do partner in a number of projects. I think this is a bit of a generalization, but the support that comes from EHR primarily focuses on issues related to pedagogy, and the support that comes from the Engineering Directorate focuses more on the specific engineering content aspects.
Okay. I have one thing I threw out there. I'm not going to, I'll wait till the second round to get into questions, but I just wanted to sort of put this out there to think about. Maybe this will come up and I'll get back to it, is the definition of engineering, which is sort of where I started when thinking about this hearing, because I remember when I got an undergrad degree in mechanical engineering, got a master's at Stanford in a program called Engineering Economic Systems. And when I was in this program at Stanford, and I had never thought about what is the definition of engineering. I thought it was. I just thought about the multiple different fields and how they are applied, how the methods are applied. But at that point, I was taught engineering is problem solving. But I think what you define is what engineering is has an impact then on when we're talking about engineering in K through 12 and what can be done and what is defined as teaching engineering there. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'm going to come back to it on a second round of questions, but my time is up, so I'm going to recognize Dr. Ehlers for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and lots of questions, not enough time for all of them. Let me start with Dr. Miaoulis. First of all, thank you for your work in the museum. I happen to think museums are one of the most effective adjunct to elementary schools that this nation can have. planetariums, museums, things of that sort. And you have, in particular, your museum has achieved a pinnacle in this nation, along with the Exploratorium and the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry and so forth. They play a very important role, and I assume you get busloads of students in from all over your state. We do have, or I do have a little resentment against you for stealing Patty Curtis away from us and making her spend part of her time in Boston, but she's been very effective in our STEM ed efforts here, and we appreciate her serving on the board that we put together. Also, a quick comment on Homer Simpson. Probably the reason that Homer's an engineer is, at least I've been told by physicist friends, that The Simpsons was started by two physicists. And it sort of fits the mentality of physicists, I think. I've never watched a complete program, so I have no idea what it's all about, but it certainly seems imaginative. You mentioned expanding and allowing the math and science partnership grants to apply to engineering. And first of all, we have two types of math and science partnership grants here. The National Science Foundation has one type, and the Department of Education has another type, more in the interest of getting out into the classrooms and developmental teaching. But I wasn't aware that these grants excluded engineering. Did I misunderstand you on that, or?
These grants, and this is a general challenge we have with the initiative. There is usually language, initial language in legislation or this particular grant program, which starts in favoring STEM education. But then as you go reading further, then they focus specifically on math and science teachers and on math and science. So the T and D get dropped out, most times unintentionally. But once they are not in the rules, then as the monies go to the states allocate the money only for math and science programs and not for technology and engineering programs. So one of my recommendations is to be explicit in allocating funds such as through these programs to technology and engineering as well as math and science. So new legislation to specifically spell out that curriculum in technology and engineering should be supported, as well as professional development of technology education teachers, and hopefully in the future engineering teachers.
Yeah. Okay, I presume that was the case, but I was instrumental in putting these programs together, and if we're missing something, then we have to work on that. And at this time, it's difficult to get another bill passed, but we might be able to do something through the appropriations process. Thank you for your comment on that. And then also just a quick response from each of the witnesses. Just wonder how, this idea of technological literacy is often discussed. How would you see that as relating to the K-12 engineering education that we're talking about here today? And we'll just go down the line very briefly, please, from each of you.
The ability to learn engineering and so design specifically in a younger age, and experiences that allow the kids to learn how to make things that are useful will help them also develop respect and understanding of technology and how technology impacts quality of life, and also understand the various aspects of it. And that's what we call technology literacy, the ability to use this information and correct information and use it to make important decisions. That we believe, the committee believe, that skill is fundamental to the ability of any citizen to make correct decisions, and then, of course, for our country to benefit from those decisions.
Dr. Peterson?
I agree very much with what Dr. Katehi said. I think if you focus on, again, the primary elements of engineering as folded into an elementary and middle school curriculum focusing on design, the basic concept is to teach problem-solving skills, and with a focus on the engineering case on design aspects. But I think it's something that is applicable to anyone and helps them understand the technological aspects. So whether they're going into engineering or not, I think using that curricular approach would be beneficial.
Okay, Dr. Miaoulis.
What brings science to life in the classroom is engaging the kids in the ways that scientists think, the inquiry process. In order to engage them in the technology area and make them technologically literate, we should also guide them to behave like engineers do, to go through the design process. So engineering in K-12 would bring to life technologies which are the results of the engineering process and significantly improve technological literacy.
Thank you. Dr. Pines?
In my opinion, you first start off with asking the question, for example, this particular mobile wireless device for a kid, they use it every day. My daughter is an 8th grader, my son is a 6th grader. They know more about technology than I do. They know how to use it at least, but they don't know where it came from. So first is asking the hard question, how was this made? As Dr. Miaoulis mentioned, 98% of the things in his room were made by, in some sense, engineers or designed. And it's really making that connection that they can actually do that. They can have to ask the first question is, this thing that you're using, which is a mobile wireless device, how was it made? What are the issues that actually lead to making this? Just fundamentally connecting something to the Gen Y generation that actually uses this device very feverishly today and doesn't know how it's made. And I think that's part of just the first step of technological literacy. And then, yes, the process, the analysis, the design tools, and how you think about solving the problem to get to that type of device. I think we have to ask the first basic question.
Thank you. Mr. Sandlin?
Thank you. Well, I can certainly say in experience in 30 years that today's students, we call them the digital natives. We're the digital immigrants. They teach us. But anything that we can do that's hands-on and it involves anything to do with technology, they are just like fish in the water. When they learn about robotics, that there's nothing magic about that robot, that it has to do with sensors of sound and different sensors, motion, then they have better understanding of working together. And just as Dr. Pine said, they understand that when we talk about bridges and buildings and roads, that's one thing, but when we talk about iPods and all the electronics, they get really excited about it.
You've really hit on something good, and let me just briefly comment on that. My wife is an excellent cook and an excellent baker. She had to assume those duties in her home when she was 12 years old because her mother passed away early. And she taught all of our children to learn that. And I'd like to point out that that's really a type of engineering too. It's taking components, putting them together, experimenting. My wife, she doesn't look at recipes very often. She just likes to experiment. And she's very good at it. If I can give you some brownies, that would make you come back for more. I think that attitude, if we can convey that to kids, experiment, try different things, whether it's in the kitchen or in the basement or whatever. That's what we're really getting at here. Let the kids learn how to experiment at an early age and build things constructively out of the materials available. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Dr. Ehlers, and I think you hit on some of the things that I had been thinking about, so it's very good. Chair now recognizes Ms. Johnson for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, I need to apologize for being late. I had to do a speech off the Hill. And secondly, I'd ask unanimous consent to put my statement in the record. Thank you. And let me thank all of the witnesses for coming. This has been a passion of mine for a long time now. And I'm not sure how well we're doing. At a school in Dallas, Texas, in my district, is doing very well, but that's only about 20% of the students in the Dallas Independent School District. So I guess what I need all of you to comment on is how do you get kids past the 5th or 6th grade and keep that interest in these areas. I know that early on they seem to be easy to attract, but going through the 6th to the 7th grade, the interest seems to wane.
Our committee discussed that very extensively, and we came to believe that there is a great opportunity in starting the kids early, thinking about problem solving and about design. And they can do that with simple things. When you start talking about design, you can build simple stuff that make you do things that you could not do before. And then the kids, even in a very early age, before they go to kindergarten, they can learn how to build things, and they can learn how to optimize. They can learn how to solve a problem. And then you can layer on that the learning of math and science. So then math and science become relevant because they become the tools towards solving something, towards doing something that works. And that direct feedback helps kids learn and then makes them like technology, and then eventually a lot of these kids will select math and science as a profession. But the learning should start early, not at 5th grade. It's too late. Many of the girls... Right. Right.
Representative Johnson, I think this is a very important question, and it illustrates I think the challenge that we have in folding engineering concepts into the curriculum of finding material that's appropriate at each grade level. As Dr. Katehi mentioned, the types of projects that would interest and encourage students in the elementary and middle schools would be different from one grade level to the next. So the challenge really is to find those types of projects that would appeal to students at each grade level to maintain their interest.
I also believe that relevance is the key. If you look at the science curricula and the math curricula at the middle school, they have nothing to do with the day-to-day life of children. And if we can connect them with the real problems that they're working teams to solve, then it all becomes relevant. And I would argue that engineering should not be the last science discipline to be taught in the sequence in high school. I would argue it should be the first. So in 9th grade, everybody starts with engineering, realizing how you need math and science to solve the problems, and then getting hooked on math and science. I would like to comment on Mr. Eller's, Dr. Eller's cooking example. When I was at Tufts, we created a whole curriculum to retain engineering students, which stemmed out of our personal hobbies and interests. And I used to teach a cooking class, which was used to call gourmet engineering, where I would teach heat transfer principles through cooking. And the experiments were in a real kitchen laboratory, and it was a very popular class. And because of this curriculum that we developed, Tufts became, and still is, probably the only engineering schools where more students transfer from liberal arts into engineering than the other way around. So excellent retention.
If I may just comment, my assistant, who's a PhD chemist, sent me a note saying it's really chemistry, it's not engineering. so we quickly compromised on chemical engineering.
Representative Johnson, I think one of our challenges in engineering is that we have a marketing challenge to the kids of today and the kids of the future. I like to argue with your definition of engineering. I like to always tell kids in high school, middle school, that engineers create a world that it never has been for the benefit of society. Scientists study the world as it is to help understand the society, but engineers create a world that never has been. So I try to link that to how kids can get excited in engineering. And so one of the challenges, as I mentioned in my remarks, is that I believe we need to make the links for them, make it very simple. Another way to do it is to link middle school kids with elementary schools as mentors, high school kids as mentors to middle school kids. Provide the continuum of what they may see in high school, what they may see in middle school, why they should stay interested in math and science, how it relates to real-world problems. Making those links and letting our young people work for us as they work for our future is what we do not have such a mentoring national program that we could easily leverage and make it happen. Remember, our best human capital are our kids. Our kids in college, our kids in high school, and our kids in middle school to help the lower levels. So I think those links are important to make the connections.
Mr. Johnson, that's a question that we asked about 3 or 4 years ago when we had a Blue Ribbon Committee. You know, how can we have that supply of engineers? The industry was asking us, there in Texarkana, Alcoa and International Paper, you know, we don't have local students that are going into engineer and coming back. And We're hiring people that don't live in our area, and we don't have that good supply. And then A&M want to know how can we make sure we have students coming up through the pipeline where they can have those courses and be enough students to take the courses in engineering. So we said, well, we need to beef it up in middle school and high school, but we already had 2 courses in high school where students could get dual credit and college credit for it. So we decided to go down to the elementary and introduce them. So we're hoping that we're making it so exciting at the elementary age that there'll be an interest in it. We have our 2 groups have left us now and gone on to the middle school. And one thing that has taken place at our middle school, we've beefed up our robotics because we weren't offering that at the middle school 2 years ago. And now our children that are going over that were in this program, they're kind of demanding that. So it is a challenge that we try to work on every day, and it is that interest, and it is making kids aware of the different fields that they can go into.
Very much. My time has expired, but I want to say that the rest of these people had accents, but I understood what you said very well.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I want to comment on Dr. Pine's characterization of science and engineering, scientists and engineers. Engineers are always trying to figure out ways to put ourselves above the scientists, so I'll always remember that one. Chair now recognizes Mr. Hall for 5 minutes.
I guess my first question will be directed to Mr. Sandlin. I think you recollected Chairman Gordon, who chairs the big committee that we're all subcommittee members on. And I got a glimpse of the Morris Elementary School day before our field hearing out there last year. I think Mike Ross was there, participated. Had a guy named Thomas B. Pickens. I later learned that's Boone Pickens III. I didn't know that's him. I'd asked him for some money for campaign contribution. But we got a glimpse of the Morris Elementary School day before our school hearing last time. But I think the committee might be interested in, what a third grader's schedule is like. You touched on it in your testimony, but kind of tell us what they may be doing in a typical 45-minute engineering time block. Now, I note that in the morning they start with, I think, 45 minutes or an hour of engineering, and then on your schedule, Morris 3-grade schedule, you show an hour and a half on ELA, that's English, I suppose, in some kind of language, 45 minutes on science, then a 45-minute lunch, and then 55 minutes activity period, and an hour and a half on mathematics, and then social studies. Give us an idea of that 45 minutes, typical 45 minutes engineering time block that's focused on civil engineering and how that relates to their other subjects that day.
Okay.
You have to tie it to them I don't mean to be brutal, but to keep them from being nerds.
Yeah. Well, we do play basketball at Morris. But that was a question that parents were asking, as we were in the planning process. Are you only going to teach math and science all day and engineering? Are you going to have recess? Are you going to have art? What are you going to do? And so we teach all the subjects that you find in any elementary school. We do teach a specific period of engineering in the mornings. We have it first period because the kids work on a team, and they like to be there on the projects, especially when they get to the point where they're putting their projects together to share. And so they kind of have peer pressure to be there on time. So that's cut down on our tardies a little bit, and that's a good thing. Hurry up, Mom, get me to school. So we do take it the template and lay it down on the other subjects throughout the school day. For example, this 6 weeks we're in civil engineering, and in kindergarten they're making some tunnels out of cardboard boxes. They also get a paper towel cone, and we put it in a plastic tub, a little like shoebox container, and they have to create a tunnel that the car can go through, a little toy car can go through, just like you mentioned Tinker Tots and Tinker Toys. Well, Legos is a big thing now. And so they have to design it where they can drive that little car through. We pour water in the container, and if water comes out the ends of the tunnel, then they have to go back on the improved stage and put more duct tape on it, they say. So we do things like that. First grade, they're doing creating walls like the Great Wall of China. Third grade, they're making towers. Fourth grade is doing parking garage right now, and fifth grade is doing tar pools. So in third grade, they're building towers. So they might first of all do some research on towers. What are towers? Where are some in the United States? Where are the tallest ones? Where are the most famous ones? What materials they use to build them, things like that in that first period. And then as they move on through in the day, in math class, they can, when the teacher goes over geometric shapes, they might recall that the triangular shape was probably the strongest of the shapes they used. They understand what a right angle is. They understand the acute angle is shorter than smaller than the right angle, and obtuse is greater. So they get that hands-on and that process of learning through the project. They might do graphing by taking the tallest tower to the shortest, or vice versa. But they use that information in their math, what was done in engineering for the 6 weeks. They also might have to create a budget for the tower. Make sure they're in the budget of building it. So they have to worry about decimals. Working with decimals. They might be teaching decimals that day, and working with money. In science, they might talk about the nature and the forces of wind, earthquake, movement of the ground.
All that in that 45 minutes?
No, sir, it is. Well, I've moved on to the rest of the day now.
Well, we don't want to get on with the rest of the day because this chairman just give me 5 minutes.
Okay. But then one last thing.
I got to be somewhere at 4 o'clock.
One last thing, and then I'll be quiet about this, is I was in a first grade classroom the other day, and the teachers had taken the different building materials. They had sand and soil and granite, concrete, and she was doing a writing exercise, and they were learning how to do adjectives and descriptive words. So they were webbing off of those materials. So that's just an idea of how you can integrate the engineering concepts in the rest of your subjects during the school day, and the child kind of ties it all together and hears it again in a different way instead of just trying to repeat it and drill and kill.
I wanted to ask you something about, you've shared qualifications, your teachers. What about the students and how are they selected to attend this institution, this new thrust of breakthrough?
Right.
Just tell us a little about the demographics of the student population. I'd like to know more about cost and lack of funding, but we hear that up here all the time. Hear it from NASA. Norm Augustine's on the Hill today to tell us about money, about NASA, what they need. AIG can't get enough, and we don't have enough to do everything you guys want to do. But just give us an idea about how do you select these students?
Yeah.
I see a red light over there, so be pretty quick, because...
Yeah. Well, it's a non-attendance zone school, so everybody makes application to come. 3 years ago, when we were planning, we didn't know who was going to come, whether anybody was going to be willing to leave their elementary school. We didn't want to go in and recruit kids out of it. The other principals would be highly mad at me. They would think I'd try to take all their good kids, all their good teachers. You know how competitive they are. So we didn't really know how many we were going to have. We signed up everyone from K through 5 that first year, or the year prior to opening in 2007. We went out 3 years to register our kindergarten children because we wanted to make sure we had enough in the pipeline. And we had plenty. So this is our third year. We just started 2009. This is our last year of the students we registered a few years back. So this year we're going to a lottery system, to where they had 2 weeks to sign up, about 2.5 weeks to sign up, from October 1st to October 16th, and their names will go into a lottery, and we'll pull out, and they'll get a number according to that. We have as far as our makeup of our students, we have about our male and female is amazing. We didn't go in and try to do this. We have 203 females and 197 males, and it just there's a stat right there. It just fell 50-50 right down the line just about. We have about 23% or 15% economic disadvantage. We have we found, though, this is a way that we get more students back into our district. The middle class that was leaving our district the urban district are now coming back in because of what we're offering, and then we put all of our students together at grade 6. So it's really building our diversity well at the middle school and the high school.
We're getting a second shot, Mr. Chairman. We're going to have a second.
Oh, we will, but we're supposed to start voting somewhere around 11:30, so we're not going to have much more time for the hearing.
Yeah, Dr. Peterson answered some of the things I wanted, but I did want to ask Dr. Pine some, but I'll take my chances.
All right, all right. We'll do that, Mr. Hall. Let me quickly, we're going to start a second round of questions here. And so the chair will recognize himself for 5 minutes. And I just wanted to ask, so a lot of things I was leading up to at the end of the first round of questions, Dr. Ehlers had touched upon it and asked there. One thing I wanted to ask is, what about teacher professional development? Do we need to have a different way of doing professional development for engineering, different from what we have now for science and math? Is it something that we have to newly develop? So I want to throw that question out there. Who wants to start with Dr. Katehi?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we need to have a different set of programs that will prepare teachers for teaching engineering design in the classroom. And engineering colleges need to take ownership in this regard. So our committee identified the need and also requested that the American Association for Engineering Schools starts a national dialogue to that effect, and then trying to find ways to get engineering colleges involved.
Yeah, I think that this is, just as the science colleges have taken ownership of the science curriculum and in partnership with colleges of education, the engineering colleges really need to be able to step up and help in partnership with colleges of education to provide course content, technical content for the engineering.
Dr. Miaoulis?
At the elementary school level, I believe that schools of education should collaborate with engineering schools to introduce at least one course in engineering design for all prospective elementary teachers, so they are familiar with the process. And for the middle school and high school, again, I think engineering schools should take the lead. Also, funding for professional development should be focused in engineering as well as math and science. And since Mr. Hall mentioned NASA, I served on the NASA Advisory Committee for 2 years, and under the previous administrator, and now the new one invited me to be a member of the new Education and Education Committee. I believe that we're going to miss an opportunity if NASA does not use its wonderful and powerful engineering presence into championing engineering education nationwide. NASA should be the one that could boost K-12 engineering. It's wonderful and magical what they do. It's inspirational, and I believe that NASA should increase its education budget and focus it in this initiative.
Thank you. Just saying that for the Texans up here on the dais here. Dr. Pines, did you have anything to add?
I just wanted to say that in the College of Engineering around the United States, there are at least 4 colleges, as it currently stands, that have programs in engineering education. They're Virginia Tech, Iowa State, and Purdue, and I can't remember the last one. Clemson, thank you. And they have instituted graduate programs in engineering education, of which they are, in some cases, interfacing with colleges of education, so that some of the people that come out of these programs will not necessarily become faculty at universities, but actually will go into K-12 education and help stimulate educating teachers in the field in the art of engineering, which I think is great. But I think more needs to be done. So in terms of answering your question, the answer is yes. We do need a separate program for engineering educators that encourages colleges of engineering to interface with colleges of education to get more certified teachers in engineering of the E in the STEM word. Because we do the science and the math really well, but we're not doing the E very well.
Thank you. If Mr. Sandlin, do you have anything to add?
Just at the elementary level, we have found over the years that most of our teachers are well versed in the language arts and the reading area, but not so well in the mathematics. And most engineers we ask them, what can we do at the elementary level to help with engineering, and they say teach as much math as you can. So we would like to see more mathematics in the teacher preparation program. We certainly would be interested in any type of engineering in the teacher program. We would say any type of ongoing professional development. We have found the best model for us is to make sure it's something that is sustainable, ongoing, and that it's accountable, that we have to go back in and make sure that we're doing what we said we're going to do.
Thank you. And you may have heard the bells there. I mean, the votes have started, but I think that means we have probably another 7-8 minutes here, so I'll recognize Dr. Ehlers for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will try to be brief. Dr. Katehi, your committee recommended that the American Society of Engineering Education, better known as ASEE, should begin a national dialogue on preparing K-12 engineering teachers to address the very different needs and circumstances of elementary and secondary teachers and the pros and cons of establishing a formal credentialing process. My question is simple. Has ASEE been receptive of this, and what's the current status?
Yes, they have been, and from what I understand, they have already started the dialogue. But they need to be encouraged, and the engineering colleges, so ASEE is an organization, and this organization can develop a plan and can develop a framework. But the colleges, the individual colleges in the universities need to take ownership of that as well. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
I spoke to a group of university presidents several years ago, and one of them asked the question, what can we do as presidents of universities? And I said the most important thing is to get your department of education to talk to your departments of science, math, technology, engineering, etc. My experience has been visiting a number of campuses and residing on a couple, that there's been disdain between both departments.
That is
not
correct.
even friendship, just disdain. And we just got to get them together.
Yes.
Thank you. Yield back.
Thank you, Dr. Ehlers. And Chair, we don't have any questions on here. Just want to make sure. Okay, Chair, recognize Mr. Tonko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make this brief so that Mr. Hall can get his question in. But I know there's a lot of focus on middle school and high school for developing the engineering connection. But my opinion as an engineer in both mechanical and industrial engineering majors is that you have to start earlier than that in the elementary setting. And the expertise of math is critically important. And how do we build not only the human infrastructure, but how do we design the construct of education so that there's teamwork done in building projects, which is the workplace of today and certainly of the future, and how do we inspire that whole response of mathematics in the elementary setting that gets past fractions as a fear factor and gets past equations. There's just fun things I think we can do in the elementary setting. If we don't start there, the fear of math and science, if you avoid it, the silent fear is just going to continue. How can we put a greater emphasis on elementary settings? Dr. Miaoulis.
Our broadest curriculum for K-12 is focusing on elementary schools. We have a curriculum which consists of 18 now and 20 at the end of the project. NSF has funded this project. Books, and each book focuses on a child from a different part of the world. The child talks about her community and a challenge the community face. So the little girl from India, which is the hero of one of the books, talks about quality of drinking water and a challenge of quality of drinking water in her town, and how an environmental engineer in the town saved the town by building a filtration system. Then we engage the kids with the teacher in building a filtration system in the classroom. So through storytelling, world culture, connecting math and science, through engineering, we bring the whole process to life. It's used in all 50 states, our curriculum. It has reached 1.2 million children, and in a recent study, it showed that not only kids that use the curriculum performed better than kids that did not, but also we closed the achievement gap because we engaged children that typically didn't get engaged in by math and science through real engineering.
Anyone else want to take a stab at it? Yes, Dr. Katehi.
I would like to say that the committee spoke about this. Obviously, there is a great opportunity when we start this early. And there is something else we need to take into account, that the brain learns in a very sensory way when the kids are very young. And then we abandon that and we go to very abstract learning and we start memorizing tables and we leave away the reasons we do that, and the kids cannot make the connection. So if we go back to very early age, even before kindergarten, and start thinking on how to continue with that sensory learning and add to it a second layer of the more abstract. I think the combination of the two, which in fact can be done wonderfully through the solution of engineering problems, through design, can help kids learn and can help kids appreciate math and science as relevant tools.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I would certainly say that that's right on target. What we're attempting to do is to have cooperative groups all the way through from kindergarten up, and we give them everybody has an opportunity, a job to perform, and everybody has a responsibility, and we give them an open-ended problem, and they go about solving it, and they learn by discovery, basically. And so we want to continue that as much as we can, and that's the area that we really need help on from getting that training for our staff.
But your setting is particularly focused on math and engineering, your elementary school?
You know, it's focused on engineering and mathematics, but we tie it into all the subject areas of the school.
Because I think we need it across the board at all schools, elementary schools, to just get, for a number of reasons, to encourage engineering perhaps as a career, but more importantly, to develop those analytical skills, those problem-solving skills that all of society needs, no matter what discipline you're going to follow in life.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Tonko. I can never say no to a Polish mechanical engineer over there. So, Chair now recognizes Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to think of a way they could ever got me interested in math when I was in school. The 3 years I took Math 1 were 3 very tough years. And by the way, Mr. Miaoulis, Josh and Martha Morris Middle School is a NASA Explorer School. Okay. And thank you for that, because NASA's in a bind now. As Norm Augustine's just releasing his report today, and that's going to hit the papers through the day as to what recommendations he's made. And NASA, everybody else I know needs more money, but schools really do, and that's where we ought to be looking first, probably second and third. Dr. Pines, I noticed that you testified that, quote, middle school is probably the right time to weave in some of the basic engineering, but too early to do any rigorous engineering type classes. If middle school is probably the right time, are you suggesting that elementary level is too early, or for students to grasp the basics of engineering?
By no means.
Okay. I didn't think so,
no,
but I
no
want to
means.
give you a chance because that's in your testimony.
Yeah, essentially saying that the more of the structure would probably show up in middle school is simply my comment. But absolutely, many of our kids that are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade at elementary, those that are very much interested in mathematics also need to be exposed to the concepts of engineering at the very basic level. That's really would be my statement. But more structure can show up in middle school, where they really can connect and actually start doing some level of analysis, because by that time they're entering algebra. When they're in elementary school, they're not. They're dealing with fractions and decimals and very simplistic things. You can bring up some general concepts. But as they transition into middle school, our experience, at least at the Clark School, is that they make that connection fairly strongly. We have programs for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that it's still a struggle to make the connections for them to see what they're really looking at in terms of engineering. But they're interested, and we want to keep that continuum as we go into middle school.
Does anyone else want to comment on that?
I'll just make one comment. Excuse me. That we strive with. Sometimes the teachers will say, "Well, they're just not developmentally ready for that, or they're just not interested in it." But it's amazing what young children will do if you give them the opportunity to do it. And we're learning ourselves that they can go a long ways without us realizing what they can do if we just afford them the opportunity to explore. And we certainly, we back in. We want to make sure that when we get to middle school that we have students who are able to take a pre-algebra, an algebra in the 7th grade, where they can take the calculus in 10, and then be ready to take the engineering courses at grades 11 and 12.
I thank you, and I yield back my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've been very generous.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. And before we bring this hearing to a close, I want to thank our witnesses for testifying for the committee today, and also thank you for all the good work that you are doing at the Museum of Science in Boston. The subcommittee has done a lot of work here on informal science education, and I know you're doing a great job there. And Mr. Sandlin, I have to say, I wish I had been able to go to your school when I was in elementary school.
We've had that comment, so welcome for the visit anyway.
Thank you. The record will remain open for 2 weeks for additional statements from the members and for answers to any follow-up questions the committee may ask of the witnesses. The witnesses are excused and the hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you. It was great meeting you. Yes, and I'll be happy to send you our materials if you want to look, because Tom's shop has paid for them. There's no need to reinvent the wheel.